The village of Three Rivers lay hidden between ancient trees, their branches so thick they blocked even the noon sun. A place forgotten by traders and untouched by the king's soldiers, it was cradled by nature and haunted by whispers of things unseen. The land itself seemed alive, roots twisted beneath the soil like sleeping serpents, the river's dark waters rushed with voices that spoke in the dead of night, and the wind carried old names that no one dared answer. Life in Three Rivers moved to the rhythm of old beliefs. Here, spirits were not stories for children but accepted truths. Curses could turn milk sour and wither crops, omens were read in the flight of birds, the curl of smoke, or the dreams of restless villagers. In this village, people lived cautiously, forever balancing their lives with unseen forces. No one built their house too near the forest's edge. No one swam alone in the river after dusk. And no one, not even the boldest hunter, dared to mock the dead. For it was known, in Three Rivers, the boundary between life and death was thin, sometimes, too thin. At the heart of these beliefs was old Nana Ife, the midwife, healer, and keeper of forgotten knowledge. Bent with age but sharp of mind, her wrinkled hands had delivered nearly every child in the village, and her words were heeded like scripture. Children grew up hearing her voice as she passed by with her basket of herbs, always muttering warnings under her breath. On more than one dark night, when a sudden death left the house cold and grieving, it was Nana Ife who would lean in close and whisper to the mourners, her voice low and grave. Not all the dead stay silent. And so the villagers listened, and feared. For in Three Rivers, even the bravest knew that death might not be an ending, only a door left slightly ajar. Lila was known throughout Three Rivers as a woman of rare beauty and even rarer heart. Her skin gleamed like river stone after rain, her eyes dark as the midnight river, and her laughter, light, genuine, often echoed through the winding paths of the village. Orphan young, she had been raised by her aunt, a gentle weaver, and learned from an early age to work hard, speak kindly, and move with grace among the wary people of Three Rivers. Though many young men of the village sought her attention, Lila's heart remained her own, until one market day a stranger arrived. Jomo was a traveling herbalist from a distant land, his lean frame draped in simple robes, a satchel heavy with roots and rare leaves slung over one shoulder. His voice was calm, his eyes steady, and he carried with him a knowing that seemed older than his years. The villagers eyed him with suspicion, as they did all outsiders, but Lila saw more. She saw the way he knelt by a sick child without hesitation, the way his fingers moved gently when preparing a poultice, the quiet reverence he showed toward life itself. In time, they spoke, then walked together beneath the trees, and as seasons turned, affection bloomed into love. Their marriage was a simple affair, but joyful. Beneath garlands of woven flowers, they made their vows, and the people of Three Rivers gathered to watch, some with genuine warmth, others with narrowed eyes. For though many admired Lila, not all admired her happiness, especially among the women who had long envied her beauty, her gentle nature, and now, her good fortune in finding a man like Jomo. Soon after their union, Lila's belly began to swell with new life. She glowed with a radiance that only deepened the envy of certain village women, those whose own hearts had grown bitter with longing and unmet desires. Whispers began to ripple through the village. She bewitched him, some said. No one can be that loved, that lucky, without help from spirits. The jealous words grew heavier with each passing moon. And then came the signs. First, a mirror in Lila's home, one gifted by Jomo from his travels, was found shattered on the floor one morning, though no tremor or storm had passed through the village. Next, 3 dead birds lay upon her doorstep, their necks twisted unnaturally, feathers stiff. No predator had done this, it was an offering of malice, a warning left in the shadows. Jomo found the omens disturbing. He burned incense, swept away the remnants, but a growing unease stirred in his heart. Lila, though unsettled, chose calm words. "Let us not feed fear," she told him softly, resting her hand on her rounded belly. Yet her eyes, deep, dark, wise beyond her years, betrayed a flicker of worry. Beneath the watchful sky of Three Rivers, a tension now pulsed in the air. Something unseen moved among the trees, and the love between Lila and Jomo, once so light and joyful, now bore the weight of unspoken dread. Acua sat alone in her dim hut near the market square, her crooked fingers sorting through bundles of dried roots and brittle leaves. Her face, once striking in her youth, was now a map of lines and shadows, her eyes small and sharp beneath a tangle of gray-streaked hair. Among the villagers, Acua was both respected and feared. Her remedies worked, it was true, but her temper was known to curdle faster than spoiled milk. And her bitterness, like a rot beneath the skin, had only deepened with the years. She watched Lila from afar, watched her blooming belly, her easy laughter, the tender way Jomo looked at her. Every glance, every moment between them, fanned the coals of an old and festering wound. For once, long ago, Acua had known Jomo herself. On one of his earlier visits to the market, before he had met Lila, he had come to her stall seeking rare herbs. Acua, then still proud and sure of her charms, had offered him more than leaves, she had offered herself. A smile, a touch on the arm, words heavy with promise. But Jomo had only bowed politely and declined, his rejection as clean and sharp as a blade. From that moment, resentment had bloomed in Acua's heart. It twisted and thickened with each passing year, growing until it consumed every corner of her spirit. When news of Jomo's marriage to Lila spread, the bitterness became something darker. When the young woman's pregnancy became known, it turned poisonous. "She has stolen what should have been mine," Acua muttered into the shadows of her hut. "She will not keep it. I will see her joy turn to sorrow." And so she began her work. Late at night, when the market was empty and the moon shrouded in cloud, Acua gathered the tools of her craft, a blackened bowl, sharp stones, thorns from the ghost tree that grew beyond the village edge, and strands of hair snatched from Lila's discarded comb. She ground roots that carried the scent of death, mixed powders whispered to awaken the restless, and spoke words older than memory, dark invocations taught to her by her own mother, who had long since vanished into the forest. Her voice was low but steady as she chanted. "She will labor with pain, and from the pain, death will take her. The child will wail, but not with joy, for her grief shall pass through the child's breath. Let the man who spurned me taste despair." The mixture bubbled and smoked in the bowl. A small, withered doll, bound in twine and smeared with the foul paste, was fashioned as the final vessel of her curse. The charm was ugly, pulsing faintly with unseen energy, its glassy eyes reflecting the flicker of Acua's single oil lamp. Before the dawn, under cover of mist, Acua crept through the twisting paths toward Lila's home. Her bare feet made no sound upon the earth. The village still slept, unaware of the old woman's passage. She knelt near the small herb garden outside the house, a place where life was meant to flourish, and with quick, practiced hands, dug a shallow hole among the roots of the healing plants Lila herself tended. There, she placed the charm. Her voice rasped again. "Buried deep, unseen by the living, let death find her womb. Let her voice fall silent, and the child know her sorrow." With trembling fingers, she covered the hole and smoothed the earth. Her task complete, Acua melted back into the shadows, a thin smile curling her lips. The first light of morning would soon creep over the horizon, but her heart was already alight with cruel satisfaction. In the days that followed, Acua kept to her hut, her presence at the market more rare, her eyes watching, waiting. The village bustled unaware, but beneath the surface, unseen forces stirred. A seed of darkness had been planted, and soon, it would take root. The night Lila went into labor, the sky turned heavy with dark clouds, thick as smoke. A restless wind stirred the trees, their branches groaning and swaying as though warning of something unseen. Thunder growled low in the distance, echoing across the river that wound around the village. By the time Jomo noticed the first sharp cries of pain from Lila's lips, the storm had broken. Sheets of rain lashed against the earth, and the river, already swollen from recent rains, began to rise, its churning waters frothing with angry speed. Most of the villagers stayed shuttered in their homes that night, huddling beside weak fires, muttering old prayers. Few dared venture out once darkness fell, for everyone knew storms in Three Rivers were more than weather, they were omens, the breath of spirits walking the earth. Jomo's face was pale with worry as he bent beside Lila, whose face was slick with sweat, her body trembling with each wave of pain. The midwife must be summoned, there was no choice. And so, with his heart pounding, Jomo rushed through the torrent, his cloak soaked through in moments, to the home of Nana Ife. Old though she was, Nana Ife wasted no time. Her basket of herbs and tools in hand, her staff tapping rhythmically on the wet ground, she followed Jomo back to the house. Her mouth moved in soft prayers as she walked, eyes wary of the shadows that seemed to gather in the corners of the night. Inside the small home, the air was thick and hot despite the storm's chill. Lila's breathing was shallow, her hands gripping the rough blanket beneath her. The child was coming fast, and wrong. The signs were clear to Nana Ife the moment she laid her hands on the swollen belly. The child was turned, and something dark hung over the room. Through the long night, the storm raged. Lightning split the sky again and again, casting strange, flickering light into the house. Lila's pain grew sharper, her cries turning hoarse, raw with effort. And with each passing hour, her eyes darkened with visions only she could see. She whimpered words between gasps of air, shadows, they're here, watching, cold hands. Her gaze darted to corners of the room where nothing should have been, as though dark figures hovered just beyond sight. Nana Ife worked with grim determination, her hands moving swiftly as she urged the child forth. She burned protective herbs in the small hearth, chanting old words under her breath, trying to shield mother and child from the creeping presence she too could now feel, an oppressive weight pressing down on the house. Time lost all meaning. The rain drummed endlessly on the roof, the river roared in the distance, and the flicker of lightning revealed a room caught between worlds, between life and death. Finally, as the first gray light of dawn crept weakly into the sky, a single piercing cry broke the gloom. The child was born, a baby girl, slick and small, her tiny fists clenched tight. But no joy followed the birth. For even as Nana Ife lifted the child in trembling arms, her aged ears caught something wrong, something in the newborn's first cries. They did not sound like a babe's simple wail. No, they rose and fell in tones too strange, too sorrowful, almost as though shaped into grief itself. And behind those cries, words. Echoes? Something deeper, buried within sound. Jomo, face drained of all color, looked at his wife. Lila's head lay tilted to the side, her lips parted slightly, her skin waxen and still. Her chest no longer rose. Despite all efforts, her spirit had slipped beyond reach. Nana Ife closed her eyes, heart heavy with sorrow. The room was thick with a chill no fire could touch. Jomo fell to his knees beside Lila, tears mixing with the rain that still dripped from his hair. He reached for her hand, cold now in his own. The baby's cries continued, strange and chilling, echoing through the small house and out into the storm-swept morning. Outside, though the rain had begun to ease, the river still rose, its dark waters hungry and swift, swollen with more than rain alone. The villagers, peering from behind closed shutters, would speak of that night for years to come. Of the storm that seemed to howl with more than wind, of the strange cries heard through the dawn. And of the beautiful woman who had died bringing forth life, her voice now silenced, or so they thought. The storm broke fully the next morning, leaving the village soaked and shivering beneath a sky of heavy gray. The swollen river raged on, its current fierce and deep. Word spread quickly, Lila was dead. Her passing hung over 3 rivers like a dark mist. In most seasons, the village would gather, chant the old prayers, light the sacred fire, and send the dead across with honor. But not this time. Fear gripped their hearts. The manner of her death, the storm, the strange cries of the child, none dared speak of it openly, but all felt the same dread. Whispers rose like smoke, something was wrong. Pressed by superstition and fear, the burial was rushed. No full rites were performed, no songs of farewell sung. Jomo, hollow-eyed, knelt alone beside the hurried grave, his grief tangled with guilt. Only Nana Ife stayed near him, her wrinkled face set in a grim mask. She should be honored, Nana Ife muttered as the earth was hastily packed over Lila's still form. The dead do not forget when we turn from them. But the villagers would not listen. They scattered back to their homes, avoiding Jomo's eyes, speaking in low tones of curses and restless spirits. That night, and each night after, the air seemed heavier still. No birds sang in the dawn. Dogs, usually lazy with the heat of early summer, prowled and circled the grave at dusk, throwing their heads back to the sky in mournful howls. The sound echoed through the village, making shudders tremble and sleep flee. Some villagers swore they saw figures drifting through the mists near the riverbank, tall, dark, watching. But it was the child's cries that chilled them most. From Jomo's home came sounds unlike any had heard. The baby's wails were not the thin, soft sobs of a newborn. They rang clear, sharp, layered with strange cadence, as though shaped into words that hovered just beyond meaning. Mothers clutched their own infants tighter when the sound rose through the night, and old men crossed themselves against unseen things. "Listen," the women whispered among themselves, fearful. "It's her voice." Lila's voice in the child. Jomo heard it too. Every time the baby cried, a deep ache carved into his chest. He spent long hours rocking the child in weary arms, tears running unchecked down his cheeks. Sleep eluded him, food lost all taste. Day by day, despair drew him further into its grip. By the 9th day, Jomo sat motionless by the cradle, eyes sunken, his hands trembling. The baby stirred and whimpered, her thin cries once again spiraling into those strange, mournful tones. The sound of a voice in sorrow, no, a plea. Nana Ife, standing quietly in the doorway, watched with heavy heart. She had seen such signs before, long ago in her youth, when another spirit had refused to rest. A curse hung here, she could feel it thick in the air, taste its bitterness on her tongue. She stepped inside, laying a steady hand on Jomo's shoulder. He barely turned to her, lost in his hollow grief. "Jomo," Nana Ife said softly, her voice low but clear, her spirit lingers. "This is not how it should be." He looked up, confusion and fear clouding his eyes. "Something binds her here," Nana Ife continued. "Something unfinished. You must see this. If we do nothing, both child and spirit will suffer." The baby whimpered again, and both of them heard it, the faint echo beneath the cry, "Jomo," like a voice from deep water. Jomo's breath caught in his throat. Tears welled again. At last, his hoarse voice broke the silence. "What must I do?" The 9th night fell heavy upon Three Rivers. The moon was swallowed by thick clouds, the wind low and restless, carrying strange scents from the forest. In the village, few dared light their hearths, and the streets remained empty, as though even the shadows feared to move. In Jomo's house, the air was close, filled with the weight of unshed tears and old sorrow. The baby lay in her cradle, swaddled in soft cloth, her tiny chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Jomo sat nearby, unshaven and hollow-eyed, one hand resting on the edge of the cradle, the other clutching a faded scrap of Lila's shawl. The child had not ceased her strange crying, not once in all the days since Lila's passing. But now, something was different. The cries had grown sharper, cutting through the silence like a blade. The wind picked up suddenly, rattling the shutters. Jomo looked up, heart pounding. The air inside the house seemed to hum. The baby stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, dark, deep, like Lila's had been, and her mouth open wide. From her tiny throat rose a cry, but this was no mere infant's wail. The sound twisted, deepened, shaped itself into words, clear, unmistakable, in a voice that did not belong to any child. "Jomo, protect her. I was cursed." The words hung in the air, chilling Jomo's blood. His breath caught in his throat. He rose, staggering back from the cradle. Again the cry came, the same words, heavy with grief. "Jomo, protect her. I was cursed." A sharp gasp came from the doorway. Jomo turned to see that Nana Ife had entered silently, her dark eyes wide with alarm. She had heard it too. In moments, the sound spilled through the thin walls of the house. Neighbors nearby, already on edge from the past days, heard the eerie voice rising from the baby and rushed to the house in fear. Lanterns flickered to life as word spread, "The child speaks with the dead woman's voice." By the time the villagers gathered outside Jomo's door, fear had taken hold of them. Men and women stood in the muddy street, clutching charms and talismans, murmuring prayers. Some carried knives, others torches. Whispers filled the air. It is cursed. She carries the dead with her. We must stop it, before it spreads. An elder man, face pale with dread, called out, "The child must be destroyed. It is not natural. It is a vessel of sorrow, it will bring ruin upon us all." A frightened cry of agreement rose among the crowd. They began to press toward the house. Inside, Jomo stood frozen, torn between grief and terror. The baby had fallen silent again, her small chest trembling as though the voice had cost her strength. Jomo's heart ached with fierce protectiveness, but he did not know what to do, what path to take. Before the crowd could reach the door, Nana Ifes stepped forward, staff in hand, her frail body framed by the flickering light. "Stop," she commanded, her voice sharp as iron. The villagers halted, uncertain. "This is not evil," Nana Ife declared. "It is grief. A mother's grief. The dead speak because something binds them here, unfinished, unresolved." She turned her fierce gaze upon the elder who had spoken of destroying the child. "Would you spill innocent blood, when it is not the child who is cursed? You would invite greater darkness upon us all." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Fear warred with reason. No one dared challenge Nana Ife openly, not yet. Jomo, trembling, stepped forward beside her. His voice, ragged but resolute, rose above the muttering. "I will find the truth. I will end this curse. But I will not allow harm to come to my daughter." The baby stirred, letting out a soft, tired whimper, one that no longer carried Lila's voice, but the simple, fragile cry of a child. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the villagers began to withdraw, uncertain and afraid but unwilling to cross Nana Ife. The torches dimmed, the muttering faded, and the muddy street grew empty once more. Inside the house, Jomo sank to his knees beside the cradle, one hand gently resting on the child's tiny arm. His voice broke in a whisper. "I will not fail you, Lila. I will find who did this, and I will make it right." Nana Ife knelt beside him, her old fingers brushing the child's brow. "We will begin at first light," she said quietly. "There are answers in this village, and those who would hide them." The dawn that followed was pale and thin, the sun barely breaking through the dense clouds that still blanketed Three Rivers. Jomo had not slept. He sat in silence through the long hours of darkness, watching over the child, who now slept fitfully, her breath soft but uneven. Nana Ife remained with him, tending a small pot of bitter tea, her gaze thoughtful. At first light, she spoke. "You must seek the old stories. Somewhere in them lies the truth of this curse. I will watch over the child." With no time to waste, Jomo left the house and made his way through the winding paths of the village, the earth still slick with rain. His mind burned with questions. Who had done this? Why? And how could it be undone? His first stop was the home of old Mosi, the village storyteller, whose memory stretched further than most. The frail man welcomed Jomo inside with wary eyes. He listened carefully as Jomo spoke of the strange voice, the villager's fear, and his vow to find the one responsible. Mosi's gaze darkened. "Not the first time," he murmured. "Not the first mother taken before her time. There was another, long ago. When jealousy poisoned the heart of one who knew the old ways. The signs are the same." Jomo pressed him for names, for any clue. Slowly, reluctantly, Mosi spoke. "It is said that Acua, when she was younger, sought to claim a man's love, and when she failed, her bitterness turned to curses. Many fear her craft. She walks both paths, healer and harmer. Be wary." The name struck Jomo like a blow. Acua. The old herbalist whose sharp glances had followed him in the market, whose presence always seemed to chill the air. Fueled by anger and determination, Jomo set out at once. The market square was empty in the morning haze, but Acua's hut stood at its edge, dark and foreboding. Ignoring the gnawing sense of dread in his chest, he strode to her door and pounded on the wood. "Acua," he shouted. "Come out. I know what you've done." There was a long pause. Then, the door creaked open a fraction, revealing Acua's wrinkled face, eyes gleaming with cold amusement. "You speak boldly, boy," she rasped. "But words will not undo what is done." Jomo's voice was hard with fury. "You cursed her. You bound her spirit to our child. Undo it, now, or the spirits will take what you fear to lose." Akua's smile twisted into a sneer. "I owe you nothing. You think your grief matters to me? You chose her over me. You scorned what I offered." Her gaze flickered with old resentment. "Let her voice haunt you. Let your nights be filled with her sorrow." But even as she spoke, a tremor ran through the earth beneath them. The walls of her hut creaked and groaned. Shadows thickened in the corners, swirling like smoke. The herbs hanging from her rafters rustled though no wind passed. From deep within the hut, a low, mournful sound began to rise, a chorus of whispers, voices of the restless dead. Akua's face paled. Her bravado faltered as she looked about, eyes darting to the darkened corners. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. I am not ready to face them." The shadows thickened. The whispers grew louder, weaving words of warning. "Undo the curse, face what you have wrought." Trembling now, Akua backed away, hands raised as if to ward off the unseen forces pressing in. "Enough," she cried out. "I will tell you, only spare me from their wrath." Jomo stood firm, fists clenched, breath held. Akua gasped, then spoke quickly, her voice shaking. "There is a charm, buried near your home. Twisted with grief, bound to her spirit. It holds her here, feeds on her sorrow. You must find it, destroy it under moonlight, with blood of kin and words of release. Only then will she be free." Her words pour out in a rush, the walls of the hut still trembling around them. Jomo fixed her with a burning gaze. "You will show me where." Akua's shoulders sagged, defeated. "Tonight. Bring the midwife. She knows the rites. But go now, lest they turn on me fully." Without another word, Jomo turned and strode from the hut, his heart burning with grim purpose. The path to freeing Lila's spirit had begun. The hours of that long day dragged endlessly, each moment pressing upon Jomo's heart like stone. Word of what had happened in Akua's hut had traveled fast across 3 rivers. The villagers whispered behind doors, peering out from behind curtains with wary eyes. The story of Lila's voice through the child's cries, of the trembling walls in Akua's hut, had become the stuff of fearful talk. Though no one offered help openly, the unseen eyes of the village would be watching when the sun set. Jomo spent the final hours of daylight in preparation. He sharpened a small blade, as the old stories said might be needed for the rite. He burned cleansing herbs in his house to protect the child. He bathed the baby in warm water, humming softly, holding her close as if to comfort her for the ordeal to come. The little one remained calm in his arms, but her eyes, dark and deep, watched him with a gaze too old for her days. Nana Ife prepared as well, gathering her most potent charms, aged scrolls of forgotten prayers, and talismans handed down through many generations. She summoned 3 elders, those old enough to know the ways of the spirit world. They came quietly, without fanfare, each understanding the weight of what was to be done. When midnight neared, a cold wind rose, dry and sharp. The moon hung thin and pale behind veils of mist. The burial ground lay at the village's edge, where the river bent sharply through a stand of ancient trees. No other soul stirred that night as the small group moved down the path, Jomo carrying his daughter close to his chest, Nana Ife walking tall with her staff, the elders close behind. At the grave, the earth still damp from the recent storm, they began their work. Nana Ife drew a wide circle around the grave with ash and powdered bone. Small clay bowls were placed at 4 corners, each filled with oils that flickered weak flames when lit. Talismans were buried at the edges to ward off any who might disturb the rite. Jomo laid the child gently at his feet inside the circle, wrapped in her soft cloth. He stood silent, waiting for the sign. Nana Ife raised her staff and began to chant. The sound was low at first, almost like the hum of wind through branches, but soon it grew, deeper, resonant. The elders joined, their voices old but strong, weaving an ancient pattern of sound meant to summon, to cleanse, and to release. Spirit of the loved, called from the depths, come forth, speak your will, find your rest. As they chanted, the wind seemed to pause. The air stilled, the mist thickened. The flames flickered wildly, bending inward toward the grave. A deep thrumming began beneath their feet, faint at first, but then stronger, a slow, steady pulse, as though the earth itself were breathing. The baby stirred. Her tiny mouth opened, and from within her throat came that same chilling voice. Jomo, my love. I ache, my heart, cursed. The voice rose with sorrow that made the elders tremble. The earth quivered, small stones shifting, soil stirring atop the grave. Then light began to bloom, not harsh or bright, but soft, pale, like moonlight seen through water. The light rose, forming the shape of a woman, Lila, her face drawn in grief, her long hair flowing as though stirred by an unseen wind. Tears streamed from her spectral eyes. Her gaze locked on Jomo, and then on the child below. The baby cried again, her small voice now carrying words shaped by the spirit. Raise her, in light, with no hate, let my voice fade. Jomo dropped to his knees, tears falling freely now. I hear you, Lila, he choked. I will raise her with love, no hate, no bitterness. You will be honored, not mourned. The spirit's light seemed to shimmer at his words, as though her sorrow lightened. Nana Ife lifted her staff and called out one final time. By the bond of love, by the voice of the child, by the truth spoken here, the curse is broken. Let sorrow pass, let the spirit rest. At those words, the earth gave a final tremor. The flames steadied. The wind sighed through the trees. Lila's form grew faint, her weeping easing to a soft smile. Slowly, gently, her light faded into the night, leaving only the faintest glow upon the earth. Then silence. Not the silence of dread, but a calm, deep, peaceful quiet. The baby's breath slowed, even and soft. No strange voice remained, only the small sound of life. The heavy weight in the air lifted. The elders bowed their heads in solemn respect. It is done, Nana Ife whispered. She rests now. Jomo gathered his daughter into his arms, cradling her close. He rose, looking to the stars now glimmering through the mist. He kissed the child's brow, voice full of quiet strength. You are free, my little one. And so is she. The small group left the grave together, the night air now cool and sweet. In the distance, the river sang softly, as if in gentle approval. The days that followed were quiet. A calm had settled over 3 rivers, as though the land itself had exhaled after a long-held breath. The strange chill that had haunted the village was gone, replaced by the warm hum of life returning to its natural rhythm. Birds sang once more at dawn. The river's voice was gentle now, its waters no longer swollen with unseen anger. Jomo remained at home through those first weeks, caring for his daughter with unwavering devotion. He named her Amara, a name meaning grace that endures, in honor of both the sorrow and strength that had marked her birth. The villagers, once weary, now spoke of the child in softer tones. Some left small offerings at the doorway, gifts of milk, cloth, and charms of protection. Others whispered apologies into the wind, hoping their earlier fear would not stain the child's future. As the moons turned, Amara grew strong and healthy. Her laughter soon filled the small home, bright and pure. Her dark eyes, so like her mother's, gleamed with a light untouched by bitterness or shadow. She learned to walk among the wildflowers that grew near the river, to speak with a voice clear and joyful. The strange cries that once chilled the village never returned. Jomo poured his heart into raising her, weaving lessons of kindness, courage, and love into her life. He rebuilt their home, mended what had been broken by grief. Though the ache of Lila's absence never left him, he kept her memory alive, not as a tale of sorrow, but as a story of love and strength. Each evening, he would tell Amara of her mother's grace, her laughter, her goodness. And each dawn, as the sun broke through the trees, he would whisper, "We live with light, not hate." Nana Ife remained close, watching over both father and child with quiet pride. In her heart, she knew that the healing of one life often brought healing to many. the darkness that had once touched the village no longer held sway. As for Aqua, she was gone. One morning, weeks after the curse had been broken, her hut was found empty. The door swung open in the wind, her herbs dried and crumbling. No sign remained of the bitter old woman, no tracks in the mud, no word of farewell. Some whispered she had fled into the deep forest, fearing the wrath of the spirits she had once sought to command. Others believed she had been taken by them. No one dared search for her. No one spoke her name aloud. Seasons passed, and Amara thrived. Her laughter became known across the village, a sound that warmed the hearts of even the most cautious. In time, the story of that long night faded into legend. The elders told it to the young beneath starlit skies. Once, a woman's love proved stronger than any curse. Her voice carried beyond death, not in anger, but in love for her child. And even now, when the wind stirs through the trees, listen well, for some voices never die. And so it was that the village of Three Rivers carried forward a new truth, that love endures beyond grief, that even in the face of jealousy and bitterness, light could prevail. Jomo stood often at the river's edge, watching the sun rise over its gentle waters. With Amara by his side, her small hand in his, he whispered to the morning sky. "We remember you, Lila. Always." Years passed, and the village of Three Rivers changed with the turning of the seasons. The river, once feared for its dark moods, now flowed with a softer voice, its banks rich with wildflowers. The old fears that had gripped the hearts of the villagers on that long-ago night began to fade into memory, though they were never wholly forgotten. Amara grew into a bright and kind young girl, her spirit as radiant as the dawn her father so often greeted. The villagers came to love her well. They watched with quiet awe as she played beneath the tall trees or wandered the paths near the river, her laughter ringing like a clear bell. There was an old wisdom in her gaze, a depth of knowing that seemed to stretch beyond her years. And though none spoke it openly, many wondered if some part of her mother's spirit lingered still within her. Jomo aged with quiet dignity. His grief, though never erased, had softened into something gentler, an enduring love that filled his days with purpose. His bond with Amara was unbreakable. Father and daughter were often seen together by the river's edge, walking in the light of early morning. Jomo would tell her stories of her mother, of Lila's beauty, her kindness, her fierce love. But as the years turned, those stories began to pass from father to child, from elder to youth. And soon, they wove themselves into the fabric of village lore. It was the children, in their innocence, who first gave the tale its name, the legend of the crying child. Around fires on cool nights, or beneath the great baobab tree, they would gather in circles, wide-eyed, eager to hear the story retold. "There was once a baby," they would begin in soft voices, whose mother spoke through her cries, not with sorrow, but with love. Her voice reached beyond the veil of death. She warned of danger. She protected her child. Her love was so strong, not even death could silence it. Little hands would clutch one another in the telling, their eyes shining with wonder, not fear. For though it was a story born of darkness and jealousy, it was, at its heart, a tale of hope. Visitors from distant villages, hearing whispers of the tale, would come to Three Rivers and ask, was it true? Could such a thing happen? The elders would nod gravely and gesture toward the river's edge. For there, upon a moss-covered stone half buried by time, simple words remained carved for any to see. Lila, beloved wife, mother, voice of hope. It had been Jomo's work, crafted with care in the years after the curse had been broken. Each letter carved by his own hand beneath the open sky. Over time, the stone had weathered, softened by rain and wind, but the words still held their power. Many villagers would visit the stone, leaving small offerings, flowers, smooth river stones, or folded bits of cloth as tokens of respect. And in the hush of early dawn, when the mists drifted low across the water, some swore they could still hear a faint, lilting voice in the breeze, a voice not of sorrow, but of peace. A voice that whispered softly, "Raise her in light, with no hate." Generations would pass, and the tale would remain, a reminder that love could outlast even the grip of death. That no curse, no jealousy, could silence a mother's heart. and that in even the darkest times, a voice of hope could still be heard.